Thank you so much for joining us today, Jay.
Well, it's my pleasure to be with you.
Jay, when you talk about gold manipulation, do you're a former Wall Street guy and you know and keep contact with a lot of people on Wall Street. Is it common knowledge that's not talked about as far as gold being actively suppressed, or are people really ignorant of this?
Well, I think they're really ignorant of it. I think it's something that certainly the policymakers, to the extent they're aware of it, don't want us to know about and focus on. Because if people really realize that gold is artificially low priced, then you'd have probably a rush into gold and a rush out of paper. And as Alan Greenspan said back in 1966 in an article he wrote, Gold and Economic Freedom, the reason governments really hate gold and they don't want people to think about it and buy it is because it would take their ability to reallocate wealth from the producers to the to the government and to the bankers. And so, no, I think that, on the other hand, with respect to gold manipulation, the central bank comes right out and says, yeah, but we have the legal right to do so. So, they don't want us to know that they're doing it. And I don't think that, I would imagine that most people that are engaged in the bullion markets are just simply trading for a profit. And to what extent this is a concerted effort on the part of a few people in a smoke-filled room, I have no idea. But I think there's a vast amount of evidence, and I think the Gold Antitrust Action people have provided a huge amount of evidence to suggest that gold prices are manipulated. But then why would gold be different? I mean, everything else is manipulated in this economy now, which is one of the reasons I'm so bullish on gold. Everything else is interest rates, and you pump money into the system. That is manipulation. And I think it was David Stockman that said he thinks that Mr. Bernanke is one of the most dangerous people for capitalism that we've ever had in America. So, we're looking at a time, I think, in which we are seeing, still in the fairly early stages of a bull market of a lifetime in real money, that is gold and silver.
It's conflicting. You think about the restoration of gold as money and the currency crisis, and then on the same hand, on the investment side, could gold go into a bubble one day, just like all other things people rush into? I mean, is that what will ultimately happen as gold becomes a bubble, or does it just become money again?
A lot of the establishment would have us believe that gold's already in a bubble. But if you look at the supply of gold above ground relative to the amount of money that's been created, it's money, and it's the bond market that's in a bubble. Yes, I suppose one day that could happen. I remember 1980 when gold went from $35 a few years earlier to $850, and I remember that time there was panic buying of gold by people in the streets in New York City. They were lined up around the block to Deke Pereira's offices, Deke Pereira's storefront, to buy gold and Krugerrands at that time. And I don't see anything like that now. If I walk down the streets of New York and ask people, do you think you should have 5-10% of your portfolio in gold? Most people would say, no way. I mean, that's ridiculous. It doesn't pay you any interest. Why would you own the stupid stuff? It's nice to have around your neck, but why would you own it? So I think that we're a long ways away from that bubble. I think people in the rest of the world understand and don't trust their politicians to the extent that Americans do, are buying gold. Certainly the Chinese are. The Indians love gold. They don't have the same level of respect for their politicians, or let's say maybe their governments aren't quite as good at the propaganda game. But we are in a bull market of a lifetime for gold. I'll never see anything like this again. None of us will. And I think that, when you look at 1600 from looking in the rearview mirror, it looks like it's a high price. Yeah. But if you compare that with the amount of money that's printed, I suppose that we could see a bubble at some time. I suppose that, as we saw in 1980, there will be huge amounts of people that finally lose confidence and throw in the towel on the policymakers, and then there will be a rush to gold like we've never seen before. And when people start to insist on delivery of their gold for the huge amounts of paper that's out there in the futures markets, and if those people on the buy side want to take delivery, God help us, the price is going to go to the moon. I really believe that. Now, but what I like to look at, though, in terms of, let's say, a Brazil Resources or a company that is in the exploration business, is the real price of gold. Because if the nominal price goes up to the ceiling, goes up to through to the moon, but my costs go up faster, then I'm not that's not a good proposition. So that's why I look at the real price of gold, and that's also why I'm very bullish on the basic fundamentals for gold mining and selectively gold mine exploration companies.
When you're looking at these explorers, a lot of people, you're right, they have to know what to buy because they're a lot of people have been decimated just throwing money at some 5-cent stock. What kind of quality do you look at with a gold like exploration company? And if you can give us an example of one, and what would make them one that you would feel comfortable with?
Well, if we're talking about exploration stocks, because I think that's where you have to be most careful, because of what I just said, it's very difficult for these companies to raise capital. I think you have to start out by looking at management, and a company that I like very much, and they are also a sponsor of my radio show. I should disclose that, but it's also a top pick in my newsletter, and that's Brazil Resources. And this is a company, BRI is the symbol on the Toronto Exchange. And you start out with the management, and this is a company that's headed up by Amir Adnani. And Amir has proven his mettle really in the past with uranium energy. UEC, it's a very successful company, but Amir has the qualities that I think are most important in management. And well, he's a big picture guy. He's a good people person, and he knows how to delegate, and he really attracts top talent underneath him as well. So those qualities allow him. His communication skills are top. He has a confidence. I think perhaps the most important quality is that the financial markets and the financial institutions really respect him, and so he's able to raise capital, which is one of the reasons I think that respect is one of the reasons he's got Brazilian Invest Group. It's a group, a very financial institution in Brazil that is a large shareholder in this company, and so that is, I think, you start out with the people and the track record, and Amir Adnani is considered one of the top by Doug Casey and others as one of the top rising stars among the exploration sector. So if you can raise capital, and Amir has proven he can do that, and he's got this deep pocket company that's a major shareholder with him, that's the most important thing. But if you look at what Amir has done in the last year or so with this company, a company here that could do extremely well in this year. So this would be the kind of thing, the kind of quality I look for in a junior exploration stock. And again, I'm very cautious on the exploration side. I think there's a lot of juniors are not going to survive, but the Amir Adnanis of this world will be watching those companies, and with their ability to finance, will be able to pick up projects, as he's already done last year. I think you're going to see this company do extremely well.
Well, let's talk about that. You have an excellent track record as a stock picker, excellent track record as just a giving market analysis. Investing right now, a lot of people, for those who had their 401ks decimated in 2000, then decimated in 2008, they're just looking for safety, and then they do some research, and they find out the dollar could be in crisis in the future, and then they're kind of like, well, what do I do now? Do I buy stocks? Do I buy gold? What do you recommend people get into?
Well, because we are debasing the currency, that is the only thing the policymakers are inclined to do is to try to keep things going a little longer. And so what they're doing is printing money. They're debasing the currency essentially. The dollar, I think, all the world's currencies are declining relative to gold. So if you want to retain wealth, gold is certainly one place to be. Gold bullion, I would start out with gold, and silver, I would add. Both of those metals, whereas the mindset, and I think the propaganda in the United States and in the West in general is to keep people confident in the dollar, even as it's being destroyed. So I think people want to avoid, don't pay too much attention to the happy talk that comes out of the mainstream. They want to buy gold because it is real money, not because somebody's deemed it so, but because markets have chosen gold and silver as money over many, many decades. So to preserve wealth, you have to start there. So, I'm looking at, in my own portfolio, something like 20% in gold and silver this year. And then I'm looking at gold shares, and I really have a preference at this point in time for project generators as well as the producers, the guys that are actually creating cash flow in production and can grow organically. So those are my areas